Time to travel the world and tell tales of haunted ships, banshee legends, and we even have a decapitated saint to boot. All things you'll never learn in regular school, I can promise you that much. Question for you, what's your favorite ghost story? Let me know in the comments and let's dive into today. How about we kick things off with a decapitated saint and a talking head? Sounds like fun? I thought so. When the Vikings were raiding England in the 9th century, a saint named Edmund turned himself over to the invaders rather than have his people be overrun. According to the Lives of Saints, it was written by an author named Alfric of a word I cannot say. Now, Alfric was an English abbot who wrote a lot of autobiographies, a lot of homilies, and a lot of biblical commentaries in the 10th and 11th centuries. He tried to convert the Viking invaders. Edmund tried to convert the Viking invaders, and in response, they tormented and beheaded him, throwing his head into the forest. Contemporary Christian burial customs dictated the head must be buried with the body for sake of wholeness, anticipating the resurrection of the dead at the Last Judgment. A witness who had seen the beheading had an idea where to look, so a search party traveled the woods calling out for Edmund. Eventually, hearing the head itself respond, "Here, here, here!" They find Edmund's head, which was speaking to them, miraculously being guarded by a wolf, which kept the other little critters at bay. After the head was recovered, Edmund was given a martyr's burial. Years later, the body was exhumed from the local churchyard to be moved to a nicer location. And apparently the body looked almost entirely healed, and the head had reattached itself to the body with just a thin red line around his neck to show where he had once been beheaded. No thank you. Little too creepy. Ooh, decapitation. Next up, a forgotten saint who haunts a blacksmith's dreams. Alfric wrote of a different saint, Swithun, whose gravesite had been forgotten by his community. So to ensure his veneration and remembrance, Swithun first appeared in a vision to a local blacksmith, telling him where to find the grave and how to know it's his. There's an iron ring on the coffin lid, and if you can pull it open, then all this has been true. The blacksmith was too scared to follow through, however, and an increasingly frustrated ghostie had to visit him 3 times before this guy finally went to the grave. Well, political turmoil in the local church prevented the original body from being moved inside the church, so his spirit was like, okay, let's try something else. He began appearing to others in the community, telling diseased people to visit his tomb to be healed. Eventually, the king noticed the healings and told the bishop to reinter the body within the church. After the body was moved, more and more people came to the tomb for healing. It was written that so much so that the walls were lined with the crutches and stools that had belonged to those who had been healed of their physical ailment. Look, I'm all for a ghostie doing good, but that's just a little wild. But hey, he got his point across. Here's a doozy: the determined ghost of a vengeful father. An Icelandic family saga known as the Saga of the People of Eyri catalogs several hauntings in medieval Iceland where the walking dead, called Drug in Old Norse, sometimes return with malicious intent. One of the tales is about a man named Arnkel and his father, Thorolf Haldfoot, who died sitting up, eyes open, at the family's dining room table. Arnkel warned his family not to walk in front of the man's line of sight. He covered up the face and ordered a hole to be cut in the wall through which Thorolf could be carried out, likely to confuse the body in case the undead tried to return home. Both of the oxen who carried the body to his grave died, as did many animals who went near his burial site, and soon Thorolf began haunting the valley, causing farming families to flee left and right. Arnkel decided to move the body, which was all undecayed and most evil to look upon. After they moved him to a new gravesite, they built a wall around it in an attempt to keep Thorolf contained. Soon after, Arnkel was killed, and even the wall couldn't keep the ghost from returning to attempt to avenge his son. Another group of men exhumed Thorolf's body yet again, and this time they burned it, scattering the ashes in the sea. Some of the ashes, however, were caught in a wind, and a cow who accidentally ingested them later gave birth to a bull who killed a man who had been one of Arnkel's nemesis. Take that, folks. I love that kind of spiteful revenge. The Irish Banshee is a supernatural being in Irish folklore who is said to foretell death with a mournful wail. She is a female spirit, and she appears in lament to announce the forthcoming death of a family member. And she's been documented since like the Middle Ages. Like, she has been around for a minute. I'm sure you know all about her. Historians have traced the first stories, possibly, of the Banshee to the 8th century, and they were based on a tradition where women sang a sorrowful song to lament someone's death. They were known as keeners, and since they accepted booze as payment, they were said to be sinners and punished by being doomed to become banshees. Now, according to the mythology, if you spot one, she's going to vanish into a cloud of mist, and this action creates a noise similar to that of a bird flapping its wings. Now, once again, banshees don't cause death, they're just a warning of it. But when you associate a thing with another, when translated, banshee means fairy woman, and they are connected to the mythologically significant tumuli, a type of burial ground that rises up from the earth into a mound, and they've dotted the Irish countryside for hundreds of years. Very similar to like fairy villages. Now, description Descriptions of what banshees look like vary, but a common theme shows them having long, flowing hair, dressed in black or gray. Don't look at me. Some reports have even seen a woman with gray hair, white hair, black hair, or red hair. Whew, being a brunette saved me just now. She's been reported as being old and ugly, or young and beautiful, but they're always noted as taking a form resembling a female-looking figure. Lady Fanshawe, a 16th century writer, claimed to have had a first-hand encounter. Her account describes the banshee as having red hair and a ghastly complexion. Lady Wilde, writing in the 19th century in Ancient Legends of Ireland, states the size of the banshee is another physical feature that differs between regional accounts. Though some accounts of her standing unnaturally tall are recorded, the majority of tales that describe her height state the banshee's stature as short, anywhere between 1 and 4 feet. Whew, once again, I am 5 feet, we're good. Her exceptional shortness often goes alongside the description of her as an old woman, though it may also be intended to emphasize her state as a fairy creature. Originally, many believed that the Irish banshee only visited those coming from a noble, powerful family, or pure Irish families, because traditionally there were only 5 major Irish families. Let's see if I get them all right. The O'Neills, the O'Briens, the O'Connors, the O'Grady's, and the Kavanaghs. However, it is believed that intermarriage has long since extended this selective list. And yes, although a visit from an Irish banshee may not seem the most welcome of encounters, the appearance of the banshee was seen as a fairy privilege. There's a wider Celtic tradition as well, by the way. Folks have documented similar spirits in Wales, Scotland, in the Highlands in particular. Accounts of banshees have also been found in Norman literature, but it's the Irish one that is the most famous. Nowadays, beliefs in the banshees are not common, like we're talking modern times. But we still talk about her. If I said like, hey, have you heard about a banshee? People are like, oh yeah, wail like a banshee, like it's still a common phrase. And finally for today, on December 4th of 1872, a British-American ship called the Mary Celeste was found abandoned and floating in the Atlantic Ocean. The Canadian brigantine Di Grazia found her in a disheveled but seaworthy condition, under partial sail and with her lifeboat missing. Now, she was found with her cargo fully intact, minus the lifeboat, which appeared to have been boarded in an orderly fashion, but why? We may never know, because nobody on board was ever heard from again. Gonna backtrack for a moment here. The Mary Celeste set sail from New York, bound for Italy, in November of 1872. The ship was manned by Captain Benjamin Briggs and 7 crew members, including Briggs' wife and their offspring. A little bit of history on the captain. Benjamin Briggs was born in Wareham, Massachusetts on April 24th of 1835, one of 5 sons of famous sea captain Nathan Briggs. Now, all but one of the sons went to sea, to becoming captains, so family traditions. Benjamin was an observant Christian who read the Bible regularly and often bore witness to his faith at prayer meetings. And in 1862, he married his cousin, Sarah, and enjoyed a Mediterranean honeymoon on board his ship, the Forest King. Now they had 2 offspring, and by the time they gave birth to the second one, Briggs had achieved a high standing within his profession. And he was like, maybe I want to retire, maybe I want to spend time at home with my offspring. But, no. That didn't happen. The original plan was to go into business with his brother, Oliver, because he had also gotten a little tired of wandering around. But it didn't happen. They were like, let's invest in a ship instead. Oliver invested in Julia A. Halleck and Benjamin in the Mary Celeste. Now, supplies on board the Mary Celeste were set to last for 6 months. And there was like some really luxurious items as well. Talking like a sewing machine, a piano. Historians and commentators generally agree that to abandon such a worthy ship, something crazy or alarming must have happened. But the last entry on the ship's daily log reveals nothing unusual, and inside the ship, everything's been in order. Theories over the years have included mutiny, pirate attack, even a giant octopus or sea monster. But the cause behind this ghost ship remains unsolved. Now, if you want to talk about the origins of the ship, the Mary Celeste was built in Spencer's Island, Nova Scotia, and launched under British registration as Amazon in 1861. It was constructed of locally felled timber with 2 masts and was rigged and was carvel built, the hull planking flush rather than overlapping. She was transferred to American ownership and registration in 1868, and that's when she got her new name. After that, she sailed uneventfully until the 1872 voyage. At the salvage hearings following her recovery, the court's officers considered a lot of possibilities of foul play, but no convincing evidence supported any of the theories. The inconclusive nature of the hearings fostered continued speculation as to what had happened to the ship's occupants. Like, there's been a lot of theories, folks. I know I talked about the obvious ones already, but it was like, oh, maybe the booze fumes from the cargo did something. Maybe there was a submarine earthquake. Maybe there was a giant squid. And our favorite, paranormal intervention. Now, the ship was found, so after the hearings, she continued on in service under new owners. But in 1885, her captain deliberately wrecked her off of the coast of Haiti as part of an attempted insurance fraud. But the story of the abandonment, well, it lives on, because we still don't know what happened. Even Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote a story about it. Like, it's pretty famous. And that's it for me once again, folks. I've been Alexa, your resident ooky spooky girly, and if you enjoyed my ramblings today, could you help us out by giving this video a like, subscribing if you aren't already, hit the bell for more ghost stories from us here at Top 5 Scary Videos, and I'll see y'all next time, you lovely spooky people.